What's up, guys? This is Chris from DraftDashboard.com. Here are my DFS picks for NBA playoffs. Thursday, May 27th. These picks apply for DraftKings and FanDuel. Before I get started, please drop a like on this video and hit that red subscribe button and hit that bell icon so you don't miss our new videos. In this video, I'm going to go over my top picks for today's NBA slate. And if you stick around to the very end of this video, we'll use the Draft Dashboard tools to make a DFS lineup using the picks we just made. Okay guys, we have a 3-game slate tonight, so let's take a look at the point guard position. I like Cameron Payne from the Phoenix Suns playing the LA Lakers, who have a good defense overall, and they're middle of the pack defending opposing point guards. Cameron Payne, he scored 40 fantasy points last game, playing 32 minutes with a 28% usage rate. He's projected at 28 fantasy points here tonight. That's 5.3 times value. He's 5,300 FanDuel salary, and he's 500 less on DraftKings. Vegas thinks there's going to be 210 points scored in this game, so I like Cameron Payne here versus the LA Lakers. Okay, another point guard that I like is Monte Morris from the Denver Nuggets playing the Portland Trailblazers, who have the 12th worst defense overall, and they give up the 7th most fantasy points to opposing point guards. Monte Morris has averaged 19.8 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 25 minutes per game with a 17% usage rate. But he scored 32 fantasy points last game. He played 29 minutes, and he's projected at 26 fantasy points here tonight. That's 5.2 times value. He's 5,000 FanDuel salary, and he's 800 less on DraftKings. So I like that DraftKings price. I like this pick because Monte Morris has scored 32, 19, 17, and 23 fantasy points in his last 4 games versus the Trailblazers. And Vegas thinks there's going to be 227.5 points scored in this game. So I like Monte Morris here versus the Portland Trailblazers. And the studs that I like at the point guard position, Damian Lillard, Drew Holiday, and maybe a little bit of Chris Paul. I'm just concerned about how many minutes he's going to play because he only played 22 minutes last game. So I may not take the risk on Chris Paul here tonight, but I do like Damian Lillard and Drew Holiday as the studs at the point guard position. Okay, let's take a look at the shooting guard position. I like CJ McCollum from the Portland Trailblazers playing the Denver Nuggets, who have a middle-of-the-pack defense overall, and although they've been pretty good versus opposing shooting guards, CJ McCollum has averaged 37.7 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 34 minutes per game with a 27% usage rate. He scored 26, 36, and 34 fantasy points in his last 3 games, playing 38, 36, and 31 minutes. He's projected at 39.1 fantasy points here tonight. That's 5.4 times value. He's 7,300 FanDuel salary and the same price on DraftKings. Now, he doesn't have the best history versus the Nuggets, although not too bad. Last game wasn't good, only 26 fantasy points, but he did score 36, 34, and 35 fantasy points in the 3 games before that versus the Nuggets. And we know Vegas thinks there's going to be 227.5 points scored in this game, so a lot of fantasy points to go around. CJ McCollum has 40 plus fantasy point upside, can definitely return you 5 times value or more here, so I like CJ McCollum here versus the Denver Nuggets. Okay, another shooting guard that I like, I'm going to give you a value play here. I like Pat Connaughton from the Milwaukee Bucks playing the Miami Heat, who have a good defense overall, and they've been good versus opposing shooting guards, but Pat Connaughton has averaged 17 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 23 minutes per game with a 12% usage rate. He scored 20, 7, and 22 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 19, 10, and 25 minutes. So it's kind of a toss-up here. How many minutes is he going to play? Is he going to play 10, 20, 25 minutes? Makes a big difference for his fantasy point production, but he's projected at 20 fantasy points here tonight. That's 5 times value. He's 4,000 FanDuel salary, and he's 700 less on DraftKings. So I love that DraftKings price. So Vegas thinks there's going to be 226.5 points scored in this game. So I like Pat Connaughton here versus the Miami Heat. Before I continue with the picks, I'm excited today because we added a new contest for everyone watching. If you want to enter the drawing for $100 PayPal, all you need to do is like this video, hit that subscribe button, and make a quick comment below to be entered into the drawing. We'll reply to a random comment and let you know that you won, and then we'll send you $100 PayPal. So it's that easy, and we pick a new winner every Saturday and announce them in our video. So get your comment in now so I can add another entry for you. Now guys, just as a quick note, we just released a free DFS contest on Draft Dashboard for MLB and NBA for DraftKings and FanDuel. There's over $500 available in the prize pool, and this is a totally free contest you can enter as a Draft Dashboard member. So make sure to click the link in the description of this video, give Draft Dashboard a try, and you can start playing in our free DFS contest and compete to win some money. Okay, let's take a look at the small forward position. So this guy hasn't played very well in the playoffs, but I think he's due for a big game here, and his salary is low on FanDuel. Probably stay away from him on DraftKings, but on FanDuel, I like Kyle Kuzma from the LA Lakers playing the Phoenix Suns, who have a good defense overall, and they've been good versus opposing small forwards. But Kyle Kuzma has averaged 24.7 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 29 minutes per game with a 20% usage rate. He scored 11, 4, and 25 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 19, 19, and 22 minutes. So I like that his minutes have been consistent, right around 20 minutes per game. I'm hoping he gets a few extra minutes here, but he's projected at 21.7 fantasy points, and on FanDuel, that's 5.2 times value, because he's only 4,200 FanDuel salary, but he's 700 more on DraftKings. So I love that FanDuel price. Now, Vegas thinks there's going to be 210 points scored in this game, so I like Kyle Kuzma on FanDuel here versus the Phoenix Suns. Okay, now I got a stud pick for you. At the small forward position, I like Jimmy Butler from the Miami Heat playing the Milwaukee Bucks, who have a middle-of-the-pack defense overall, and they give up the 3rd most fantasy points to opposing small forwards. Jimmy Butler has averaged 45.6 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 34 minutes per game with a 27% usage rate. He scored 23 and 44 fantasy points in the last 2 games, playing 31 and 45 minutes. So he only played 31 minutes last game, so I think he's in store for a bunch of minutes here tonight, probably 35 minutes or more, and he's projected at 46.6 fantasy points. That's 5.1 times value. He's 9,100 FanDuel salary, and he's 700 less on DraftKings. So I like that price on both sites, but especially on DraftKings where he's extra cheap, and Vegas thinks there's going to be 226.5 points scored in this game. So I like Jimmy Butler here versus the Milwaukee Bucks. Okay, who do we have at the power forward position? I'm going to give you a stud pick here. I like Giannis Antetokounmpo from the Milwaukee Bucks playing the Miami Heat, who have a good defense overall, and they've been good versus opposing power forwards. But Giannis Antetokounmpo has averaged 53.9 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 33 minutes per game with a 33% usage rate. But he's been excellent in the playoffs, scored 66 and 59 fantasy points in the last 2 games, playing 30 and 45 minutes. So I like that he only played 30 minutes last game. He should be in store for a bunch of minutes here tonight, hopefully 35 minutes or more. And he's projected at 56.6 fantasy points. That's 5.1 times value. He's 11,100 FanDuel salary, and he's 200 less on DraftKings. We know Giannis has 70 plus fantasy point upside. He can break the slate. He's been doing awesome so far, and Vegas thinks there's going to be 226.5 points scored in this game. And I like this pick because he scored 66, 59, 34, and 65 fantasy points in his last 4 games versus the Heat. So I like Giannis Antetokounmpo here versus the Miami Heat. Okay, now I'm going to give you a value play here. Kind of a risky play here, but he's just playing so many minutes. I think he's due for a big game, and it's a great matchup. I like Robert Covington from the Portland Trailblazers playing the Denver Nuggets, who have a middle-of-the-pack defense overall, and they give up the absolute most fantasy points to opposing power forwards. Robert Covington has averaged 25.9 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 32 minutes per game with a 12% usage rate. He scored 14, 18, and 20 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 37, 34, and 29 minutes. He's projected at 23 fantasy points here tonight. That's 5.1 times value. He's 4,500 FanDuel salary, and he's 100 less on DraftKings. So Vegas thinks there's going to be 227.5 points scored in this game. So it's a good game to stack. And this is a good way to get some low salary exposure to this game and a guy that's playing a ton of minutes. So I like Robert Covington here versus the Denver Nuggets. Now, one of the studs that I like at the power forward position is Anthony Davis. He scored 68 fantasy points last game in 39 minutes. He's projected at 52 fantasy points here tonight. That's 5 times value. He's 10,400 FanDuel salary, and he's 700 less on DraftKings. So pretty good DraftKings price there. So I like Anthony Davis as a stud pick here versus the Phoenix Suns. Real quick, guys, I got great news. For a limited time, we're offering a full 30-day trial to Draft Dashboard. You can try all of our DFS tools for all sports. You can try the Position Optimizer, where you can see the top players ranked for each position. And we added a new Player Trends tool, where you can see the top salary differences between FanDuel and DraftKings. It's a really good tool to help you pick out value for the site that you're playing on. Oh, and if you're tired of doing research every day, we just added a cheat sheet that shows hand-picked plays for the slate. No confusing stat lines, no headaches, just a simple cheat sheet that shows the absolute best players for your lineups. Okay, moving on to the center position. So for a stud pick, you got Nikola Jokic. He's always a threat. He scored 54 fantasy points in his last 2 games, projected at 54 fantasy points here tonight, which would be 5 times value. He's got 60 plus fantasy point upside. But the other centers that I like here are DeAndre Ayton from the Phoenix Suns playing the LA Lakers, who have a good defense overall, and they're good versus opposing centers. But DeAndre Ayton has averaged 33 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 31 minutes per game with an 18% usage rate. And he scored 35 and 42 fantasy points in the last 2 games, playing 42 and 36 minutes. He's projected at 37.8 fantasy points here tonight. That's 5 times value. He's 7,500 FanDuel salary, and he's 1,200 less on DraftKings. So I love that DraftKings price. He scored 35, 42, 21, and 42 fantasy points in his last 4 games versus the Lakers. So I like DeAndre Ayton here versus the LA Lakers. Okay, the other center that I like is Andre Drummond from the LA Lakers playing the Phoenix Suns, who have a good defense overall, and they're middle of the pack defending opposing centers. Andre Drummond has averaged 37 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 27 minutes per game with a 28% usage rate. He scored 36 fantasy points last game, played 24 minutes with a 26% usage rate. He's projected at 33.5 fantasy points here tonight. Now on FanDuel, that's just about 5 times value because he's $6,900 FanDuel salary, but he's $1,000 less on DraftKings. So I love that DraftKings price. And he scored 36, 27, 19, 49, and 66 fantasy points in his last 5 games versus the Suns. Just gotta hope he can get around 24, 25 minutes. Should be able to hit value on DraftKings, no problem. So I like Andre Drummond here versus the Phoenix Suns. If you want to try all these daily fantasy tools for yourself, click the link in the description below this video or just go to draftdashboard.com. You can use our DFS lineup optimizer to build quality lineups using our picks and your own custom player pool. Click the link in the description below this video and try all these daily fantasy tools right now. Thanks so much for watching. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel and hit that bell icon so you can get instant updates whenever we post a new video. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed this video, please smiggity smash that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Oh, and please comment below with your favorite player for this NBA slate. I love to hear what you guys have to think. Thanks again, and good luck.